Welcome everyone back to Forward Operating Base Lake Fork. I'm Greg Hill. I'm your host of your fishing show today. This will be the fishing report ending for April the 16th. And again, it's been another really great week. Besides one day yesterday where it was a little tougher, it's been just a great week since my last report. But let's talk about the water level. The water level has been very stable during the spawn. We're still just over a foot low. The water temperatures, I saw anywhere from 66 yesterday to 69 in the places that I was fishing. So the water temperatures are still just perfect for for the spawn fishing. We're coming up. We ended that one moon cycle where we had a lot of fish move up on bed. But even just 2 days ago, I saw new fish that had moved up on bed in the area. So that whole rule about the big wave, I think it's probably pretty accurate, but it doesn't mean that other fish aren't continuing to move up into the spawning areas. I think it's going to probably continue on for the next 2 to 3 weeks easy. Last year I went back and looked at my records. I was catching spawn fish in May, and then I started to transition to those kind of like bluegill bed fishing type things. But it's still going to continue on. We have another moon cycle coming up here where I think it'll be another pretty big wave, and then just a really great fishing on Fork right now. I'm catching a lot of slot fish. We've only had one over this time period, so I've seen some overs, but we couldn't get them to stick around the beds to catch them. And then fishing in the grass around the areas, we've only caught we caught some good slot fish doing that, but not any big overs this time around this year for me. So it's been it's successful catching a lot of poundage of fish, but not the really big ones that I'm honestly looking for. But I'll go into the fish report to kind of tell you what I've been doing and kind of see what I see happening during this next week and some of my observations from the water this week. So again, this week, pretty much going out in the morning. I am starting my day later. I have some trips that I wasn't starting, if they're half day trip, I wouldn't start until 10 o'clock. That best time to go bed fishing for me has been between the 10 to 4 to 5 range. The water temperatures, getting warmer those afternoon. And I know some areas, I would go in the morning at 10 and see some fish or not see a fish there, and then come back in the afternoon, there could be a fish there. So it seems like this afternoon time period for my bed fishing has been better than in the morning time periods. So I'm going up in the morning still, and I'll go throw on the points, secondary points that are going back in there. Now I'll tell you, I've only caught a couple bass out there on those main points. It just hasn't been that great. So I'm still hitting them to check it, and then I'm moving back to secondary points. But we're starting to catch. You throw these gizzard shad, not gizzard shad, but threadfin shad take lures, and we're catching threadfin shad. We're hooking the threadfin shad on this bait, and crankbait's the same thing. But there doesn't seem to be any bass up there. We moved up really shallow through some top water and didn't get any hits. And I started late anyway, so I just transitioned my bed fishing already and started catching those on all those trips. But I just haven't been out on the points catching the fish yet. So I know that at least one wave, one of the big waves has finished now. There's a lot of fry garters out in a lot of areas. We're getting a lot of fish you'll see milling through the grass, and you get a lure near them, and they'll get real active, try to chase it. They'll run it, and they'll hit it, and they'll bump it. I had one the other day, threw a Senko out, throwing a green Senko, a chartreuse on the tail. The fish it was a good 4-pound fish. It kept going right up to the bait, and it actually hit it with its nose once and turned around and slapped it with its tail. My customers looked at me because they'd never seen anything like that. I'm like, holy cow, what was that? So, the fish there's definitely these fish that are fry guarded right now. There's probably a bunch of post spawn fish in some places. I'm seeing some fish act like post spawners. Those males are coming off their beds, haven't eaten in a while. They'll get pretty hungry. There's a lot of shad back in this grass now. You know, those, like I said, the threadfin shad are back in the coves, and I've got some video I'll put on the end of this that shows them just kind of milling about on these poles of docks. So if you're going back in those areas, if you've got a live scope system, if you've got the forward-looking sonars, when you go through these areas, you'll see near these trees that are in these spawning areas, there are clouds of shad around these trees. These trees are sitting out in the middle of the cove. So there's a lot of threadfin that are back in the cove right now. And I think that might explain a little bit of the fish not showing up on the points as much, because it just seems like the fish, you know, if you're a fish and you're coming off bed and you're done doing your fry guarding as a male, and then you're hungry, well, there's shad right here, so I don't have to go out to the main lake to get all this shad. There's just a ton of it back in the coves right now, and maybe that's explaining a little bit of it. I don't know for sure, but it seems like a working theory, you know, that I have. But but get back to the you know, at least for what we've been doing. So I'm throwing frogs in the morning. You know, I'm throwing frogs, both the, you know, standard green frog, popper frog, or I'm throwing a shad colored frog. I'm throwing Zara spooks in the morning. I'm throwing the jerk baits out there on the points, secondary points. Little crankbaits have the same kind of pattern, going for that threadfin shad, you know, type pattern. I'm throwing Senkos that with the tail dyed chartreuse on it back in the grass, dragging it through these areas. You know, there's a lot of bluegill chasing going on right now with a lot of these fish on the bed. You can see them; they're just tearing through the areas, chasing these bluegill away from their areas, their nests. And some of the fish are pretty aggressive. The males and the females that we saw the other day, or 2 days ago, were pretty aggressive. You know, they were just tearing up the area, chasing around these bluegill. And some of these bluegill are, you know, the size of my hand, which brings up something else. I am sure that I saw some bluegill starting to get on beds just the other day, and that was 3 days ago, I guess. And it seems early for that, but it sure looks like it's happening. There were just a ton of bluegill in the area. They were all sectioned off in the areas, and they were swimming around in little circles, and anytime another bluegill got near them, they were chasing them off. You know, it really looked to me like it was the beginning of a bluegill bed getting built. You know, they hadn't dug in for their circles yet, but it sure looked like they were partitioning off the area and doing their little circles, and over time they'll probably dig that into you know, their beds that you normally see, which, you know, again, is a whole new pattern that we fish after this post spawn time period. So you know, what would I be doing if I come out here? I would still be looking up shallow. There's a lot of fish shallow. If you want to come out here and catch numbers of fish, you can still catch them shallow. You go through the areas, just work your way. I mean, mostly it's about between a foot and probably 3 feet at the most. I'd seen a couple deeper beds in a couple places, but, you know, for the numbers of fish, that's probably what you're looking at. The water clarity in some areas is starting to get murky. As we get this water warms up, you're going to get an algae bloom that starts taking place in some of these back cove areas. It's starting to happen. So that visibility that used to be, you know, 2 feet or so, 2.5 feet, it's shrinking, and it just means it's harder for you to see the fish. The fish are probably still there, but you're just going to be harder for you to see them as this takes place. I've noticed a lot of beds for these bass that they've moved it up on the bank, and they're behind that. Even there's always been this outer grass line, and the fish were kind of inside that line making their beds. And then some coves that had any kind of water inflow to them, that water that was behind that outside grass edge, it stayed pretty clear, and they were bedding there. Now it seems like some of the bass, because it's getting murkier, they're actually building their nests in really shallow water, like a foot. And so maybe it's getting murkier, and they want that sun visibility to get down to their eggs, and they might be even going a little shallower. Let's just hope the water stays, you know, night level stays stable, because that would mess up the fishing up a little bit if they drop the water, if they started pumping the water out for some reason, or they let water out. That would change things a lot, I think. I've seen areas where some fish were in some pretty shallow water in the last 3 days, and I went back to the area and they were just gone. Now, they were new fish in those areas, so I'm not really sure why they left, but they there were some males that had started some beds in the area, and they just left. They just took off. They are not in the same areas. So that's probably what I would be doing. You know, I want to start talking about what you're going to do for the shad spawn, because it's going to happen. I mean, at some point, these gizzard shad even are going to start getting up on those points, right? And I've been watching the points. I'll go down and look where the birds are. You know, look to see if you get those blue herons. You got the white cranes, and you got the blue herons out there. You know, the big thing is that, you know, you talk about the blue herons. The blue herons, you know, can eat the bigger gizzard shad, so they'll generally can be up there, and the gizzard shad are getting up there. Those blue herons are pretty mean birds, actually. So watch some videos on YouTube. Those things eat squirrels, little alligators, they eat all kinds of stuff. They're pretty mean. I didn't realize that they were that tough of a bird, but they are. I watched the other day a blue heron roll in on 3 of these white cranes and just chased them away, just attacked them, and took over the whole point. And I mean, the white cranes got chased off. He just sat there for about 15-20 minutes eating the shad, eating the threadfin shad. So, you know, there's Mother Nature for you, right? But, you know, look, if you're going to go out and do that type of fishing, it's going to start happening. And for me, it's always been a very, very early bite. So if that's going to start happening, you have to be pretty much there as the sun's coming up, in my opinion. And that's when the majority and more of those shad are going to be up, because they're up at nighttime. Like, you know, I live around the lake, and so, you know, I can see the shad when I get her at nighttime. I haven't seen as much. I went out last night and kind of lit my spotlight. I didn't see it, but, you know, when it really gets going, if you go out there at nighttime, they're just the threadfin are just everywhere. They're on everything, and there's just so many of them. You really can't. You know, you have to kind of picture in your head. It's just like you want to walk on them almost, it seems like. But I haven't seen that yet here, at least where I live in, and I do see that every year. So for me, I haven't seen it, but, you know, I've seen it on the other points where there's a lot there, and like I said, we're hooking them. We would bring back this jerk bait and have a threadfin, you know, hanging from it. So we took a joke out of, like, that's the smallest fish we caught, you know, the day. That was the guy won the record for the smallest fish because he caught that threadfin. But, you know, so I haven't seen it here right where I am, but in other places I think it may be starting more. But as that starts happening, for me, it's an early bite. You get out there when the sun's coming up, basically. And because, you know, number one, there's only so many good points that are going to be out there, so it's harder to get those points, and you got to get up on them. Or, you know, another boat gets there. Another boat gets there, he'll be on it for, you know, a while, so he's fishing it, so you won't have a chance to fish it, and you have to move on and find another point. So start early. You know, I like to start off with the top water bites when I'm doing that, because I just love catching fish on top water. But I'll generally start with a smaller popper type baits, and then a smaller zero spook, and then the larger spooks. It just depends what kind of activity I see, and, you know, if we're trying to catch some numbers versus just a big fish. But, you know, you can't ever underestimate the potential here on Lake Fork for just catching a big number of huge bass on top water baits during this time period that's coming up. I think everyone kind of knows the story about Lee Livesey, the Bassmaster tournament. You know, he was fishing on a point up in Birch, and not in Birch, but in Lakini, and, you know, he had his, you know, over 9 pounds on his for each one of his 5 bass for the day. Now, it's kind of funny because that day I was going up there to fish that point that morning, because I had been fishing way up Little Caney almost every morning for 4 weeks before that took place for the spawn. And we would stop by these points and fish these points on the way up to this area to go fish the bedfish. And I have my customers, I'd show them a map in the morning and say, hey, we're going to go here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to kind of go to this place. And I remember rounding the corner. I rounded the corner to go up into Little Caney, and I looked ahead of me, and there was about 40 boats up ahead of me. And I looked over my customer, like, what is going on? I don't know what's going on here. And, you know, as I I've got pretty clear vision, so I wouldn't have to get too close, but I realized that they were right about where they were, and I looked over at my customers in the boat, and I said, well, I guess we're not going to be fishing that spot this morning, so we have to go find another place. But, you know, and he stayed on that. I think you remember if I remember the story. He stayed on that spot all day long. He never left that point. He fished there all day long. He won the tournament. So, can't say anything about it. But you know, that's some commitment to fish that one spot at that time. But you know, if you catch 5 fish over 9 pounds in a day, I'd say that's a pretty good day, plus a bunch of other fish. But so you can't underestimate the kind of big fish you can catch on fork during this time period when these post-spawn females and the larger males are finishing up their spawn. They're just hungry. You know, they're going to be coming out of these areas and getting on these points that the shad will stack up on, and it's a really great time of year. I mean, there's a lot of great fishing here on Lake Fork all year round. But that's a great top water time period. Like, I really enjoy my bed fishing, and I really enjoy my top water fishing. So you know, that's what we'll be looking to cycle into, I think, as this time period comes through. But you know, when I'm throwing on top waters, I know a lot of people throw the bone. I pretty much throw 2 colors. I pretty much throw the bone color, and I throw the shad color. I mean, it's kind of 2 colors I throw. I don't throw a lot of other. Some people are throwing, you know, there's all different brands, of course, to throw out there. Everybody has their one that they prefer. I kind of throw the Zara Spook more than others. I've got some others I throw, but that's kind of what I focus on. And you know, in poppers, you just mix it up. You know, if you go with if you got one of these points and throw a jerk bait and throw a crankbait in the same type of colors, throw a top water, you know, a popper, or even throw a frog that's in the shad color, but work it, you know, like a popper almost, you can really scare up some big bites. You know, of course, with the grass that we have out here now, some of these longer points that have got this brush that are on top of it, you might have to go with like the shad type of frog, because it's really, really, really nasty up in that stuff. And there's some points that really, to get up shallow where I think fish normally are going to be, were before, you can't really get there with a Zara Spook or anything anymore. You might have to throw like a weedless swim bait, or the frog. It's got to be something in some of these areas where it's going to have to be weedless. And you know, the jerk bait, the crank bait, and the Zara Spook don't qualify for that. So you know, I think it's going to be a little there's going to be some challenges coming into this time period, and but I'm looking forward to it. And let's see here. So I did want to have one for story. So I had a customer come out with me, and he brought some baits along with him he wanted to try, and he had this bait, and he gave me one, and it's called a sleeper crawl. Now again, I'm not sponsored by these guys, but it's a funny story, because we were throwing creature baits, and we were in a jig and a number of things in there, and we've been working this fish for a while. It's a pretty good fish. And he said, man, I'm gonna throw my sleeper crawl in there. He threw a sleeper crawl in there, like second cast, and it hit it. But I will tell you, these things like this, I mean, I went and looked it up. There's only a couple colors available on the websites if you try to get these things. It's really, really realistic looking. I mean, it really is. And it reminds me of some baits I bought at the Bassmaster Classic maybe 8 years ago that had the same type of look to it, but it wasn't like this has a built-in hook and a built-in weight. You know, it's weighted, so you just throw it out there. You don't Texas rig any kind of crawl. Matter of fact, I think I have some of those old crawl baits that you just put a Texas rig on it. But I looked those up. Look, they're about $9 something on the internet if you can get them from like a normal distributor. They're selling these. They got these things listed on Amazon for like $35. And then my friend, the reason I'm telling the story, because my friend said he was trying to get one, because he got broke off. We broke off another fish, and he lost it. And and that fish got back on bed, and we were taking time. He's like, "Hey, you need to catch that fish as soon as you can, so that we try to get my bait back, because it broke." And we did. I got right in there, and I flip, and I got that fish real quick and hooked him back. And we pulled him in, and the crawfish was not in his mouth, so he spit it out. So he got broke off. The fish got it and somehow got it and spit it out of his mouth pretty quick, because I caught that fish within about 5 minutes of him spitting that other one out. So I'm not sure how that happened, but pretty funny. But yeah, but these selling, like, I guess they're just charging crazy money for these things on on the internet, and I don't know if you're interested in them, check them out. But you know, like I said, I'm not sponsored by them, but you know, it's just kind of funny story, so I thought I'd pass that along. I think that is about it. You know, we're coming up to we're finishing the spring. We're getting ready for the shad spawn, and after that, of course, it should be the bluegill spawn. But I told you the bluegill I saw in some area. I think they're just starting their nest. So you know, if it takes them, I don't know how long it takes to make a bluegill nest or a big nest, because you know, last year I had nests I had nests on these some you know, 2 of these sunken dam areas that, you know, they started off with just 10, and then there were 20, and then there were 50, and then there were 100. And at one point, that one bluegill bed that I was fishing had extended itself along an entire dam, and it was probably about 60 to 70 meters long, the whole thing. It could be longer than that. And that bluegill bed paid off. It was catching fish for, you know, a month and a half, almost 2 months during that time period. And we'll get back into that later on, but that's, of course, that's the big 10-inch worm time period where you're dragging those. You know, I did that video that had the floating worms and everything, so you can go back and watch that video if you want to go back and see those videos about how we use the big 10-inch worms to catch these bluegill, catch the bass out of the bluegill beds. But look, I'm going to knock it off here for today. Again, I want to thank my sponsors, you know, Quantum for my fishing reels, and Temple Fork Outfitters for my rods, Diamond Sports Marine here in Yantis, Texas for my FXR 21, of course Skeeter for my FXR 21. So just a great platform, and I always get compliments on the boat, and you know, a lot of the guys actually, you know, fish Skeeters out here, and you know, I think it's a great boat, a great fishing platform. So thank you for all my sponsors. Thanks for helping me out do what I do. You know what, let's just, you know, think about the next time period that we're gonna be fishing in. But if you can get out here and get out here on the spawn still, I would. But if you're looking to fish here just a little bit later, you know, in the late of April, May, June, hey, be sure to give me a call, send me a message. You can go to my website, www.foblakfork.com, and send me a message, an email, and we'll get a trip set up for you and come out and set up some great fishing. So I'm looking forward to more times out here and meeting new people and having some great fishing, building some great fishing memories with everyone. So you guys take care. Remember, here at Forward Operating Base Lake Fork, our motto is leave no fish behind. You guys have a great day. Check it. You got him. Yeah, you got him. Yep. Oh. He's going right here. Big pressure on it. Oh. Nice one, man.
Like a war zone. Like hand-to-hand combat.
This is a thicker fish.
It's 5 pounds.
Yeah, he's thicker.
5 pounds. Yeah. Jesus Christ. It's a war zone.
I'm coming down there.
Oh, you got one. You got it. That's the male.
All right.
Here you go. Here, Chris wants her.
Never saw that.
There you go. We drag off.
Right, you know, this way to the right. Pull right. Put the right tip down. Yep. Pull in. There you go.
Nice. Get some slack.
All right, brother.
This was just a female that was sitting out in the grass.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
a
I
nice
never
one.
saw
That fish wasn't on that bed.
That's a good one.
Yep. They're good.
Jig fish.
Boom! Boom shakalaka!
Yes.
Yeah, a good one.
That one came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So this one is just sitting in that grass outside the bed.
She was in the grass.
Yeah.
Is it a female?
I think it probably
Yeah, I
is.
felt the bite.
Oh yeah, it is. Cause see, it's got that like swollen little secondary hole.
So it's a
That's
female.
where the eggs come out. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the bite like a regular old
Yep. Like a pop.
tap, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I set the hook.
Well, and that's what I say. Like these, you know, see how we were just barely dragging it through that grass?
Right? I got it on the back of
So,
All right, bro. Come on up closer. Yeah. Nice one.
I'd say
close to
it's
4.
almost 4.
Yeah.
Here,
For
here,
you.
I'll take a picture too. We got
Very nice. Midday fish.
Hold it up a little higher. Nope, that's good. Ready? 1, 2. There we go.
Okay.
You want to weigh it again? Or?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Just so we can, because I'll start saying it was 8.
Set the hook, set the hook, set the hook.
Right. I thought he had it. Yep.
There you go. Just flip them in. There we go.
All right.
Good job, man.
A fish! Yay! What is that, about 9.5, isn't it?
Oh yeah, he's a little
Pretty
guy.
close to 10.
He's a little guy.
Yeah, we take a picture of everything.
Yeah, fish is good.
There you go.
Thank you.
Is that your first bed fish out here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you got one. You got it. That's the male.
All right.
Here you go. Here, Chris, one, sir.
I never saw that fish.
There you go. He dragged off. Fight, this way to the right. Pull right. Put the ratchet down. Yep. Pull in. There you go. Nice. Get some
All
slack.
right, brother.
This was just a female that was sitting out in the grass.
Oh, that's
I
a
never
nice
saw
one.
that. That
Yeah.
fish wasn't on that
Yeah.
bed.
That's a good one.
Yep. Another good jig fish. Boom! Boom shakalaka! Out. Oh, you got him. Get set the hook, coach. There you go. Move forward, and get the net. Move forward. Just keep moving, keep going forward. Go forward, back up. Drag him sideways. Just drag him, I'll get that one. Got it.
I felt that line tighten up. I said, he's on it.
There you go. Oh, good. He wasn't getting away.
Yeah.
You said set the hook. I said go.
Yeah, you took twice.
Let's see
Man.
how you hold it.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, walk him forward a little bit.
Yeah. He's already digging it.
You digging?
He swam around.
He's over there
Yeah,
now.
he's looking at it. The boat's moving a little bit, so it's going to move you out a little bit. Keep the rattle going. There you go. Ooh, he charged it. Check it. He's chewing on something.
Yeah.
Check it. Set the hook.
Oh, he's way the hell over there.
No, he's running around with it.
Man.
There we go.
He's all the way to the right.
I
over there when I
was
said
watching him chew on it. He started to run off. Here you go.
He was
Big pile, man.
He was 10 yards to the right. So where is that fish?
Nice fish, though.
Yeah.
Nice healthy fish.
Man.
Another good healthy fish. There you go. Oh, there you go. Nice. Now don't just easy.
Here it is.
Easy. Sorry, nice and easy. Just change his angle. He's not done fighting. Oh, there you go. There you go, man.
That's a good one. You know, he had it before and I missed it. He took that thing sideways.
I told you that was a long one. It was a long fish.
He took